Paul Allen. How you been?
I am excellent, PA. Thank you for having me on. Just enjoying some time off, finally. It's been a long stretch of baseball, but good baseball, and finally got some good weather here in Minnesota, it looks like.
So, Glenn, at Glen Perkins via Twitter, at Glen Perkins via Twitter. Follow him as 9 to noon does. So, assumedly, you don't get the trip to, or you're not on the south side of Chicago trip, right?
I am not. I got this week off, heading to Cooperstown next weekend, and so a little bit of time off, which is good.
That's beautiful. You've called games on radio and television, and I caught you on the radio earlier this season. Started texting you because, and embarrassingly speaking, I mean, if you've done a million of these and I missed them, I apologize. But I was like, damn, man. I mean, you're just popping through here on the radio. It was a road game too. Do you have a preference, radio or TV? Like which one you prefer to do and why?
I tell you what, this is my first year doing radio, and I had Susan Waldman. I don't know if you've ever talked to her. I know you've had I forget John Sterling on before, but Susan works with John, and I was talking to her when the Yankees were in town, and she was asking me about doing radio and how I liked it, and she put it the best is that on radio you get to paint your own picture, and on TV you're adding captions to somebody else's picture, and so they're very different. But I enjoy them both. I don't know. I felt like when I first started doing radio, I liked that better. But there's positives and negatives to both, and I really enjoy mixing it up.
The series they just had against the Astros, they win 9-3 on Saturday, and they win 3-2 yesterday. And a lot of these games against the Stros are super tightly contested. Now, Friday was out of hand until they scored 7 in the bottom of the ninth. I mean, what
until it wasn't.
Right. What was Target Field like during that comeback? I mean, had a lot of people stuck around?
Yeah, there was a great crowd for the whole weekend. Actually, had really good crowds. Even prior to that, with the 4th of July and the fireworks and those things, it was actually a really good week at Target Field. I was in stunned disbelief. I think when that game ended, I sat with my headset on at the desk for probably 5 minutes and didn't move. I was trying to process what happened. And it was that entire game. There was defensive plays made. There was things that happened in that game that you just don't see often. It was a very strange game. And then they were down to their last strike. I know they had a guy on first and 2 outs and 2 strikes on whoever was hitting. And I had said on TV, I said, they're going to lose this game. And then all of a sudden, they get a couple more hits. They get a couple runs. Correa gets up there, hits a long pop-up. I mean, that ball was hit a mile in the air, and it got out. And everything was so crazy in that game that I was in disbelief. But the crowd was awesome. It got really freaking loud when he hit that ball, and it actually felt like they were going to pull it off.
Do you? I mean, the Astros have been a middling bunch. All right, now we got World Series cred up and down that clubhouse, so they can be like, we regular season for show, we postseason for dough. I think they're like 46 and 44. Their run differential's pretty good too, and they're chasing Seattle. But with the Stros and maybe their pitchers or Alvarez or Altuve, I know Tucker's hurt, but to say they're going through the motions, that would be too strong. But I mean, do you sense that they're just ready to push a button in September and see what happens?
Yeah, I think so. I got to believe that they're going to win that division. That offense is awesome. Their lineup is really good. They're going to get Tucker back, if not before the break, right after. And you put him in there with Altuve and Bregman and Jordan Alvarez, and it's tough. I mean, those guys are really tough. They're even deeper than that with Pena at short. They've got a really good catcher behind the plate too. They're going to score runs, and they're in June. And it was actually ironically when Tucker went down is when they started hitting. But they're neck and neck with the Twins since the beginning of June, offensive wise, run scoring and that. And baseball is a funny game, PA. And I know you're a football guy, and fans and people like to treat baseball like football, and you have to look at it with a much broader perspective because things take time in baseball. One loss, one game doesn't mean as much as it does in football. And over the course of time, things are going to even out. We're seeing it with the Twins. They started off slow. Their first 20 games were terrible, but that's like 2 games in the NFL. You still have time to make up ground and they have. And I think the Astros are in the same boat. It just feels inevitable for them in that lineup. Their pitching staff is hurt. I think they'll get some guys back in the second half, and it's not a great division, the AL West, and I got to believe that they're going to end up winning that thing.
I can't appropriately formulate an opinion on Simeon Woods Richardson, and you know 1,000 times more about it than me. But it's when I get the fleeting opportunity to watch. I'm in the Comcast Covenant, but when I'm calling races at Canterbury, we have Bally's there, so I'm watching more games there than I am at home. It's not even close. It's like when I watch Simeon Woods Richardson. We have 2 or 3 or maybe 4 earned runs. We might strike out 6, 5, or 4, but we're going to walk 2 or 3. So the walks and hits and innings pitched and some of the key stuff, not awful, not great. I just what do you think of him? I can't figure out what my opinion is.
I'm right there with you, and he's not going to blow anybody away, but it's the kind of outings that he just grinds through, and then all of a sudden you look up, and it's the 5th or 6th inning, and he's given up the same 2 runs or 3 runs. Yesterday, I think he sat down the last 13 batters he faced. The second inning was terrible. He walked 2 guys, gave up a couple of hard hit balls, and then you blink, and it's the 6th inning, and he's getting a pop out to end it, and all of a sudden he's through 6 with 2 runs. It's impressive in a different way. Nothing's going to open your eyes. He's not going to blow you away with velocity. He doesn't have a breaking ball that makes hitters look stupid, but he finds a way to make pitches, and he's done it time and again. I want to say he's made 15 starts, and I think they've won 11 of them, and so he's keeping the team in the game. It's exactly what you're looking for from a young pitcher / your 5th guy in the rotation, is just give the team a chance to win, and he's done that. I don't think he's a guy that's going to win Cy Youngs or make all-star teams, but those guys are every bit as valuable as an ace at the top of the rotation when you just have depth.
How about Miranda with that 12 in a row, tying a Major League Baseball record, 12 consecutive at bats with hits? Holy cow! I mean, it's been up and down for the young man, and I think he started the season in St. Paul, but it's on right now with him, isn't it?
He was an afterthought. I think he got sent down in the middle of March, so he really never even had an opportunity to try to show that he was healthy or to make the team. And then when Royce Lewis came back early June, it was between him and Eddie Julian for who was going to go down. And frankly, it made more sense to send Jose down because he played the same position as Royce. But he had started to hit the ball, and he looks a lot more like he did 2 years ago when he was healthy. He had shoulder surgery in the offseason. And the guy can rake. I mean, he can flat out hit. He doesn't swing and miss. He hits line drives, and that streak was incredible. I have never been a part of something that suspenseful where everybody is on the edge of their seat, and that's the people in the stands, that's the people in the dugout, that's us up in the booth, holding our breath collectively every time. And the way that he did it, I want to say he had 2 infield hits. He had a little broken bat or swinging bunt down the third baseline. He had a seeing eye single. The rest was doubles in the gap. There was 1 home run in there, and it was line drive sprayed all around the field. And then that at bat that he popped out, he hit a ball down the right field line that was like a foot foul. And I had jumped up out of my chair and thinking that ball was going to be fair. It was really fun to watch, and incredible. I mean, I think it was 1952 the last time that happened.
Wow.
And so we're not going to see something like that again.
This Brooks Lee, who was a first-round pick, 2022, I believe. He was 8th overall. The fans are getting behind him now. They're getting to see what he can do in the infield defensively and how he hits and where he factors into the lineup. This Brooks Lee has a little buzz behind him, doesn't he?
He does, and he can hit. His dad was his college coach, and I think his dad's been a college coach for 25 or 30 years. So he's like a baseball rat, and it just hits. He's in the cage all the time. He's always working on something with his swing. His dad is very involved in that, and I think seems to be a pretty good hitting coach. But the kid can hit. I mean, that just flat out he can hit. And it's a short swing. He doesn't get big, and he never looked like he was consumed by the moment. I know his first at-bat, he took 5 pitches and struck out, and he might have been cemented into the batter's box there. But ever since that first at-bat, he's looked great, and great at-bats, a little bit of power. He's got a double. He hit the home run, I think, on Saturday it was. And it's fun watching guys come up and succeed. And there's the Twins have a good mix of some veteran guys with Buck and Correa, and then some of these younger guys that are just really fun to watch and play the game right, play hard, make the plays they're supposed to make, and put together good at bats. They've got a good team. They've got a really good offense, and it's going to be a fun rest of the season.
And Perk, Correa, like Perk, is headed to the All-Star game as a reserve. And how many All-Star games were you in? Just one?
3.
Yeah, 3. My bad. But Correa is the lone twin. And he's hitting 305, and just it's just, even viewing it or following it from afar, like I do, you can just tell he's the bona fide go-to guy in that clubhouse, and absolutely like the leader of the team, right?
He is, and there's other guys I know that they lean on. There's other guys that they kind of rally around. I know Kyle Farmer said it the other day that when Buck is hitting, their lineup is different. The vibe in the clubhouse and in the dugout is different. But there's the one guy, and Royce has done crazy things in his career. But the one guy that's always there is Carlos Correa.
Right.
He plays all the time. He got hit. I think it was down in Arizona. He got hit. He said, "I'm playing the next day. Forget about it. Don't even talk to me about taking time off." It happened again yesterday. He got hit and got the X-rays. He's fine. He says, "I'm going to be in the lineup." I haven't seen today's lineup, but I would imagine he's going to be in it. And he's the one constant. And I think guys pop up, but everything falls back to Carlos. He's the alpha in that clubhouse. And ever since he's been here, he's been impressive. And I go all the way back to his first year. He had one foot out the door in September with the contract that he signed and the player options. And the team didn't have a good season. He had a great month of September. He was right there trying to bring everybody with him, trying to raise the floor, even though everybody assumed that he was leaving, and he almost did. Now, fortunately, he came back, but he is that guy. He really is that guy. He's in the middle of the diamond. He's in the middle of the lineup, and he's there every day. And you need that in baseball. Superstars, guys that pop up and hit grand slams, but get hurt, you can, there's value in those guys. But baseball is about being there every day, playing 150 games, and that's what Carlos Correa does, and that's why, in my eyes, everything falls back on him. Glen
Perkins, 9 to noon. It's 11:20. Good morning on this beautiful Monday, and I like how you laid it out with Byron Buxton. You're like, when Buck's hitting, everything's happy. It's like everybody just is vivacious and stuff, and he is hitting. I mean, he's at 275. And last year, 207, we played in 85 games. We had that, I think it was 2021, where he hit like right around 300, was right around 20 home runs, like 19. So maybe it doesn't have to be that would be great. But 275, I mean, if it stopped right now at 275 and you got that the rest of the way, would you take it?
Absolutely. He's one of 2 center fielders in baseball that have an OPS over 800 right now. And the other one is Aaron Judge. So, I think, and you'll take Buck's glove over Judge's glove any day of the week. And if they can keep him healthy, if he can keep playing, his glove just by itself is a net positive if he doesn't hit at all. And now he's hitting like he did 3 years ago. He is one of the most valuable players in the game. It's just, if you always hope that he's able to play. And they've managed him really well. He'll get a day off at some point here against Chicago. I'm sure he'll probably get another one out in San Francisco. But those are the kind of things that they have to do to keep him on the field. They try to if they can get 110 games out of him, 115 games, they'll be ecstatic. And he's a huge part of it then. And that's kind of where it's at with him. He's a superstar when he's on the field, and you just hope that he can be on the field as much as possible.
What Perk? What do you do with the Guardians? I mean, they just meatloafed the Giants. 2 out of 3 wasn't bad. Did the same thing to the White Sox. They lost 3 of 4 at KC after they meatloafed the Orioles. So, I mean, it's not like, I know they had a winning streak of like 6 or 7 games, maybe 8, somewhere in June, but they're very in and out right now. But they're just super tough to catch, these Guardians.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those things you just got to keep the perspective of there's 75-ish games, 70 games left in the season. I think they're going to catch them, PA. I really do. And I believed that even when they started out 7-13 and the Guardians were like 18-2, I just don't think that the Guardians are that good. And a lot of things can happen as the season drags on. The second half of the season with young players, you really don't know what you're going to get, and guys start to wear down. I think the two toughest times of the season are right now, like the 2 weeks before the All-Star break, late June and early July, and then late August. And so we'll see. I know the Twins have 8 games left against them. They're going to have to beat them because they've only beat them, I think, once this year. And so they're going to have to try to find a way to beat them to win the division. But I do believe that they're going to continue to play. The Twins are going to continue to play the way they have. There has to be some regression in the Guardians. There just has to be. They've played above their head for the entire season, and it's really hard to do that over the course of 162. You can do it for 50, you can do it for 100, but it's really hard to do that for 6 months. And I think the Twins have just kind of plodded along. They've now won 5 straight series. They haven't won a ton of games in a row. I don't think they've maybe even won 3 in a row, I guess. But they're winning series. They're winning 2 out of 3, and you just have to continue to do that. I don't think you even pay attention if you're in the clubhouse to what the Guardians are doing. You just go out and try to win series after series and see where you're at come late August, early September, and if you have to make a push, then you try to make a push. But I really do believe they're going to catch them eventually.
So with lastly here, thank you, Glenn. This is Glen Perkins, the Twins Immortality, at Glen Perkins via Twitter if you're interested in following. The White Sox, I mean, avoid or handle Robert, handle Vaughn, and then what? I mean, just hope you don't catch a couple of these nice young pitchers on really, really good days.
Yeah, I don't know where Crochet lines up. I think he's about the only guy they have that they would have to worry about. But they've been killing left-handed pitching, and he's a different animal. But I don't think they've lost to the White Sox this year, right? I know we went there and beat the crap out of them. So it's the same thing. You try to win 2 out of 3. If you can get a sweep, great. But the goal is to just continue to win series. They're at a spot. I think they've won 26 games this year, so they're on pace to win maybe 50 in the entire season. And so you just go there and keep doing what you're doing. The offense has been great. They've gotten some pretty good pitching, and it's a softer spot in the schedule. I know the Giants are okay, but it's another road trip where you can look at it and say it should be 4 out of 6, maybe 5 out of 6. And just keep trudging along. You just never know what can happen in baseball. I know last week, I think it was Cincinnati went to New York and swept them, and then they played Detroit back at home and got swept. So you never know. But the Twins' offense is really good. They beat up on some pretty good Astros pitchers over the weekend, and they got Tarek Skubal. He's another guy. They got him against Detroit. So if they run into Crochet, I do like their chances, and the rest of it, I would imagine 2 out of 3 at a minimum has got to be what they walk out of there with.
Yeah, you'll miss Crochet, and Crochet's an interesting study because it's not like he just came up this year. I mean, he wasn't great for a little while, and he's really, really taken off. But they'll miss Crochet. They'll get Flexen tonight, then the Eric Fetty clipping penalty, and Thorpe after that. And the Twins have Lopez, Ober, and I would assume Paddock today, but it's undecided. So you missed their best pitcher, and they ain't playing great, and you've won 5 consecutive series. Lastly, with the All-Star break looming, do players start thinking about that a little bit, those who are not going to the All-Star game?
Absolutely. And that's why I said the toughest part, one of the 2 toughest parts of the season, and one of them being right now, late June and early July, because you kind of have one eye on the All-Star break. Everybody's gassed right now, and you just want to get to those off days, but you've got to grind it out. And so this part of the year is tough, and everybody's looking forward to getting some time off, a little R&R and recovering. And you got to focus. It's not easy, and I think getting this part of the schedule right now is nice. I know that there's been a couple years where they run into the Orioles when the Orioles were really good. I think they got ran out of Target Field last year heading into the break by Baltimore. So they've got a little bit of a softer part, and hopefully they'll be able to take advantage before they do get those 5 days off.
Excellent work on the microphones, television, and or radio. Really enjoy listening to you, and enjoy some downtime, my friend. And we'll catch up after the All-Star break. Okay.
Sounds good, P.A. I appreciate you, man.
Yep, good chatting with you. That's Glen Perkins. Bullpen immortality for your favorite baseball team, the red, white, and blue of the Minnesota Twins. We have a couple of segments to go, and around the corner, we will continue talking about the titillating 10, those 10 games that we started to identify for the Minnesota Vikings coming up, and plus much more. But the cash thing has returned, and here they are.
Yeah, the Fan, along with BigDeck.com, they want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. So just go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword cash. You might win some. The keyword is cash at KFAN.
There are many positives I can get out of this game.
9 to noon.
Ooh!
The Vikings.
Okay, calm down. Hell no, we're going to go to playoffs next year. I'll tell you that right now.
Speaking of going to the playoffs, the Minnesota Vikings, from an earlier conversation, 9 to noon. Kind of the terrific 10 was how it was billed and played out. Super cool to have Howard Cross join PA during the first hour. Spent his entire career with the New York Giants, won a Super Bowl, and went to one. Happened to be following remember that 2000 NFC title game? Something about maybe hearing the play calls, offensive coordinator Sean Payton, whatever. But Howard Cross talking about the more recent incarnations of the Giants and kind of the idea out of the gates to start the 2024 season, you can't lose to the Giants. You just can't. Similar conversation a year ago about losing to the Bucs. That ended up happening. That wasn't good. But starting off hot against the Giants into the 2024, if you're going to make mandates in terms of how you see things unfolding, you can't lose to the Giants. It's bad for business. And putting together kind of 10 important games and just stepping our way through the 2024.
The titillating 10.
The titillating 10, the terrific 10. We didn't make it very far because there were just so many talkers even within the first month, PA, whether it was that Giants game on the road. Mm-hmm. You hit me hard with this Darnold versus the Niners week 2. It's the home opener. So, and I didn't include that in my list, and now I just can't wait for it. But then the Texans, you're going to see Danielle Hunter on the familiar turf wearing another team's uniform. Stephon Diggs in the mix there too. And then week 4 at Lambeau, loving that against Jordan Love and Aaron Jones against his former team. The first month of football is going to be sweet, but that's just one of several months of football, PA.
Week 7, you have the Lions off a bye. Yeah, the Vikings are off a bye.
Yep.
All right, so we got that Jets, we got the London clip, and then with the bye, you have the Motor City Kitties, and they're here. Now, this plays into a middle portion of the season that has some cool games. I mean, shoot, there are cool games up and down this thing. But weeks 7 and 8, all right, you got the Lions here, and then you're at the LA Rams on a short week. So you get KOC back in Los Angeles at SoFi, Tyro versus Mentor in O'Connell and Sean McVay. But the Lions, let's not forget, the fan has learned the Lions are quite the physical bunch. And from a Viking standpoint, what makes this part of the titillating 10 for me is it's time to punch back. It's I said it a million times last offseason that, the Vikings had lost 3 or 4 to the Lions, and I could argue they should have lost 4 in a row, at least. I mean, they got outplayed a fair amount in a fair amount of games of late against the Motor City Kitties, though. The Detroit Lions, they have become the division bullies on the block. They're winning at Lambeau Field. They're sweeping the Minnesota Vikings. They're not like clowning on teams. They're just personality wise, they're just not like that. But they're the bullies on the block. The Vikings have lost 3 in a row to the Detroit Lions by an average of 9 points per game. So Pasadena City College math indicates that's more than a touchdown and an extra point. So they're winning by an average of 2 scores over the last 3 games. The Vikings have not lost 4 consecutive games to the Detroit Lions since they lost 5 in a row, 1961 to 63.
Oh my gosh!
Hear me when I tell you that. We know these are not your granddaddy's kitties or your older brother's kitties when the Vikings won like 10 in a row. We're not that far removed from that. But the Vikings haven't lost 4 consecutive games to the Detroit Lions since 1961 to 63. So the key here is they can win the Super Bowl. All right. I mean, it's being realistic, and can the Vikings win the Super Bowl? Yes. Would people, when they're having a conversation about all 32 teams and like assessing probability, for yours truly, I mean, I either picked the Lions to go to the Super Bowl last year, or I had a big opinion on the Lions the last couple of years, and they just continue to fortify. So they're the bullies in the division. They're the bullies on the block. It's time for this football team to punch back because the Lions absolutely can go to and win the Super Bowl. So the losing streak to the Motor City Kitties, that has to stop. But you're out of the bye, and you play a physical team with a very physical offensive line and a very physical brand of football that they present their offense versus an opponent's defense. All right, well, then you get a short week with travel. So you come off the bye, you got to get that squared away. You're playing one of the, for my taste, 3 best teams in the NFL, and they're physical. And then you got a short week off that Lions game, traveling to SoFi, KOC back at the spot, no Aaron Donald. And for whatever the reason, it just, when you play the Rams on the road, it causes me to think back to that. Was it Thursday night? It was a Thursday night game in 2018. At the Coliseum. At the Coliseum, which is, and I worked as part of CSC security at the LA Coliseum for about 3 years.
Yellow Jacket?
Yellow Jackets, thank you, with the CSC on the back. I mean, there were some Mexico versus USA soccer games there. I mean, it's a
war zone.
We've seen F. Millie, all right, with the NFC title game. We've seen these Eagles fans. We've seen rude and obnoxious and overly served and loud Vikings fans. Okay,
sure.
in National Football League. I mean, we've seen a lot. I have never seen vitriol between 2 fan bases as I did with the last time I was there doing that, man, it might have been like 1992 or somewhere around there, 90, 91 or 92.
Yeah, that's in advance of World Cup 94 that was here. The U.S. men's team was kind of finally showing a bit of a pulse.
Thank you.
That would have been incredible to see those teams go at it.
There were 75,000 people there, and I don't even think the game counted.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
It's like an exhibition, a friendly or whatever.
SoCal, a fair number of the residents probably originated in Mexico. I mean, that's a gritty rivalry. Those are still fun to go to.
Yeah.
I think it's almost, I bet you there's part of that, though, is that it was crazy and aggressive like that. Then it's kind of like, where hazing goes wrong, those sorts of things. Like you kind of get brought up in that, and then you're going to one up kind of, Bill's Mafia.
Yeah.
They haven't been jumping on tables, they weren't always on fire.
Yeah.
When they were doing that, eventually somebody said, I'm going to light myself on fire and do it.
That's great.
So, but wow, man, you got to be right there, front stage for that. Yeah, it would have been insane. Absolutely.
I mean, they're down memory lane we go. That at least, well, it was Mexico beat USA, and I can't remember who they played next. But it was 75,000 again. So that was like a Friday. Then Sunday, I don't know if it was a championship or I don't know what it was. But the Mexican soccer team was the bomb. And the songs they sing and the big giant flags that take up like 30 yards. It was unbelievable. I mean, it really was a spectacle. But like that CSC Yellow Jacket security job, man. I mean, you know, I got a chance to see I got a chance to see Michael Jordan win his first championship at the Fabulous Forum. So how about this for double dipping? I'm writing for the Pasadena Star News, and I'm at Hollywood Park. So I'm covering horse racing, high school sports, and I'm working on the desk as a copy editor. And I got an opportunity to be one of three from the Pasadena Star News to work the Bulls and Lakers NBA championship game. And I think it was like game 5. And I know it was because I worked at Hollywood Park that day, and then the racing ends, and I filed my story via the Trasher, which writers will remember you would send over the phone. And then I walked over to the Forum and was at that game. And, yeah, that was Jordan's first championship. And I wanted to run on the floor, but I had a media credential. I high-fived Scottie Pippen. I do remember that. He was walking to the locker room. I'm like, good job. Fist bump right there. So that was the cultivation of the Rube in me. I think that evening when I happened to be in the tunnel at the Forum where my spot was for CSC, and here come the Bulls, and they just won the championship. And there goes Michael Jordan, had a cigar in his mouth. His father, I remember, was close to him, was behind him. They had like their arms around each other. And I recognized Scottie Pippen as a Joe Camel lookalike. So like if basketball doesn't work out for Scottie, you can go ahead and put him on those camel cartons, man, because they
little Turkish and domestic blend.
Like resembled each other, and I fist bumped him. Scottie, what's up, hey? But Jared Goff in 2018. Jared Goff, quarterback for the LA Rams, he threw the only perfect game the Minnesota Vikings have faced in the history of Minnesota Vikings football. Whatever that passer rating is, 153.8 or something like that.
153.8.
5 touchdowns, though, no picks. Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp putting double moves on Anthony Barr in coverage. Why we got Barr? Why do we have Barr trying to run with Brandon Cooks?
Oh, my goodness. Robert Woods right up the middle.
Cooper Kupp's the bomb.
Uncovered the whole bid. We got Aldrick Robinson scoring touchdowns. I mean, and that was kind of a season in Kirk's first year, because I think it ended, he's about midfield. And they're down by a field goal. I think it was a field goal game, and he gets it was the strip sack at the end of the game. Like, I mean, we've had a couple of years like that in recent times, the last 5 or so years of every game ending, obviously, within one score, and it just ends up in complete peril. That was sweet, though, at the Coliseum. What's sweet, though, is KOC.
Oh, wait, remember this?
And McVay.
Remember this guy? I mean, you've heard me say it. Well, it was the origin of Johnny Pecker, where I just like him so used to Johnny Hecker being a punt pass option. It's because of stuff like this.
Remember, Hecker passes. Be careful here. He's thrown a touchdown pass during his career. Snap to Hecker, and he's going to throw. He's going to throw a fade right side into the end zone, knocked away, no flags. The pass was intended for seldomly used wide receiver Josh Reynolds, and it was covered brilliantly by Hughes.
How about that? We got Mike Hughes on the coverage.
Got to be careful with Johnny Pecker.
I told you, see? See, Hecker punts, Pecker hunts. That's why when we were in Charlotte or whatever you guys trapped and you continually use, you got to be careful with Johnny Pecker because Hecker punts and Pecker hunts. That's a metaphor for life. We'll be right
now.
We will finish the titillating 10 tomorrow. Yes, we're both actually working together tomorrow. Nordo and yours truly, Paul Allen. We have some more thoughts on the titillating 10, plus much more coming up tomorrow. But yeah, I'm sorry, man. We got like 45 seconds to a minute left, and
Duty EB.
We can't end a radio show, the first radio show that we've had since the Minnesota Timberwolves signed Joe Ingles. State of Hockey has no idea who Joe Ingles is and couldn't care less, and that's totally fine. He played like 17 minutes a game last year. Joe Ingles, when he played for the Utah Jazz, Joe Ingles personifies that older player who, when you watch him, you're going to be like, all right, well, my Wednesday night D league at Central Middle School in Eden Prairie, he should be in that league because he's not a great jumper, not fast at all. Sneaky left hand. He's left-handed.
Perspires a lot.
He talks about dingoes and Vegemite sandwiches from down under. He's Australian. He's one of the most likable players in the NBA. He might be 43 years old, but watch. I mean, Finchie's going to lay on him until you just can't lay on him anymore. You know what I mean?
I can't wait for us to talk more about it because as you look guys in, guys out, Jordan McLaughlin is moving on, and he was here for 4 or 5 years. Very likable guy as well, but for a team middle of the pack in offense a year ago, and it's Joe Ingles. Okay, we need bench shooting. This is the guy. Yeah. If you're curious what a prototypical bench scorer looks like, well, on the backside of his career, I don't want to pump him up too much, but you're going to bring him in off the bench for 10 minutes. If he takes 4 triples, he's going to hit 2 of them. You're going to be happy he was here, and he'll go back to the bench. It's Joe Ingles.
In closing, what he has to do at this stage of his career to just beat one guy off the dribble is a thing of beauty. I mean, you got head fakes, shoulder shakes, step backs. I mean, it ain't easy anymore for old Joe.
No, it's not.
But he's one of the coolest players in the NBA. Yeah. And he's smart. He's a galvanizing kind of guy.
Mike Conley connection, too.
Boom, there you go. Yeah. Welcome Joe Ingles to the Love Covenant. Thank you for listening today. Talker Tuesday tomorrow. I'm Paul Allen, and here comes Nordo with a wrap on the show.
And the wraps are brought to you by Casey's Food and Fuel Rewards, fountain and frozen drinks, elite pizza. It's all good all summer long. Go into a Casey's today. Back in business, holiday was a sweet. Fireworks at midnight. My dog was fast asleep. He used to care until we had the new baby. Is he depressed? I'm leaning strong, maybe. Favorite pastime, smoking racks of ribs. Feasting like a caveman, I needed multiple bibs. I'll fight my kids for that last bone. I got dibs. Smoke to perfection, cause I never fire squibs. Baseball team, there's no propaganda. 12 hits in a row from Jose Miranda. You gotta watch the games from a downtown rooftop veranda. But the team's an A-topic on all memoranda. And like a panda, I came back fluffy. I usually lose weight in the summer, but I'm getting puffy. I gotta hit the weights and treadmill to get svelte. And PA, he's all good, but my man, buy a belt.
It's a long year. Everybody just relax. It's going to be all right.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.